Okay, good morning, everyone. Friends, customers, and people I've not yet met yet. This is Ben Thomas. I'm with UST Training. I'm its president. And today's webinar is called Leveraging Internet Technology for Better UST Compliance. And so what that means is, in kind of common terms, we're getting rid of the clipboard, we're getting rid of the stick, we're embracing internet technologies to make our underground storage tank lives better. So whether you are an inspector or an operator, we're hopefully going to be reducing our problems down the road. So quick little history about me. I actually predate the Federal Underground Storage Tank Regulations Act that became effective in 1988. So between 86 and 87, I was a tank yank inspector for the state of Vermont. And from 1989 to 2001, the whole through the 90s, I was a UST inspector, first in cleanup and then on prevention. Back in 1996, I started one of the very first state UST agency web pages to kind of digitize technical solutions. I've been kind of doing this digital rah-rah for a long time. And then when I moved out of Alaska and started my own business in Washington State, I launched the nation's very first state-approved Class A B course in Portland, Oregon. That was way back in 2003. So I'm almost going on 20 years of providing online operator training. I launched one of the first commercially available online UST training services back in 2007. I've helped create state UST agency training web pages for Maine, Montana, Kentucky, and Idaho. And I launched, many of you might know me through my popular Tank Savvy Minute video series. It goes all the way back to 2011. In fact, the very first sites I shot my Tank Savvy video movies at, they've actually since in the last 10 years just replaced their spill bucket. So I need to kind of go back and revisit those sites to know that time marches on. I'm also a proud member of a PEI, that's the Petroleum Equipment Institute. Got about 60 people signed up. We're just kind of jump in and again, special hello to my friends who I recognize and a special welcome to folks who I've not met before. Today, what I'm going to hope to do is take away a couple items. One is to understand how this technology has changed so much. We're kind of going from analog to digital in almost every facet of underground storage tank management. So I want to talk about that evolution, and I want to showcase what some of the new solutions are. I'm kind of going to be naming names. This is not like a commercial for all my friends, but maybe it kind of is, but I'll be showcasing a number of technologies. It is not every single option that's out there. I did about 6 months worth of research and actually discovered a lot of stuff along the way, but this will be a solid but incomplete list of all the vendors who can help do these services better. So we'll learn about what web-based options are out there. And I'm going to ask you to kind of think about, okay, so I've got this kind of operation. I wonder what software application would be best for me. And so there's kind of a fitting process to consider what individual web service or maybe multiple services could help you do your job better. So I'll be talking about, what we did in the old days, inventory control using clipboards and paper sheets. I was that guy as a what is now a Class C clerk working at a roadside rest area gas station in Madison, Connecticut in 1983. So I know all about doing inventory control. So we're going to talk about what has taken that place. We'll talk about even basic stuff like registering your tanks by fax or mail, kind of the old-fashioned way. Talk about calling delivery drivers when you need an order, handwritten tank test forms that you put in a paper file, written alarm logs, monthly inspection forms on a clipboard. Be talking about tank gauge as a standalone console, and that's kind of an important thing because oftentimes tank gauges, ATGs, automatic tank gauges, do not have a internet connection to it. And I like to tell operators when I meet them in person, if there is no internet connectivity or tank gauge and you see an alarm, nobody else knows that at all versus having a backup cloud service somewhere. I'll talk about the transition. We're getting away from automatic tank gauge buttons into touchscreen stuff. ATG printout pile of leak detection history. So you go to a site and there's just boxes and boxes and boxes of paper. We'll talk about why we want to get away from that. And even the beloved 3-ring compliance binder that UST inspectors love, there's better solutions out there. I like going into a gas station and seeing our certificate on the back of the wall. I've seen that in many states around the country, but there's kind of a better way how to store and present that information. Likewise, a lot of what operators need to know is driven by their calendar. And so, yeah, you can have a calendar on the wall, on this day, check the tank, on this day, call for the line test, but there's digital remedies for that. If you've got a super busy site, I know I have someone here from New Mexico. I was at a tribal gas station years ago that was pumping so much fuel that the fuel level was never still long enough in order to even get a leak test. But there are digital solutions as opposed to powering down a site to run a leak test. There's also ways to kind of catalog all the assets that you could be managing at your system. There's old school kind of tech support, like calling someone on the phone, and even the whole model of looking to see what an underground tank is underground has changed. Let's kind of dive in and talk about what I used to do, which is inventory control, stick in the tank back in the old days. The old timers, they love to see the fuel, but all this information is now digitized. And so pretty much no one should be even really sticking their tank anymore. And maybe I'm preaching to the choir here, I don't know, but you can now go to your laptop, log into your account and actually see liquid levels and have extremely accurate liquid level readings. And so what this does is moving inventory and reconciliation to the computer side. It does remove human-driven measurement errors. Inventory control with a stick was a problem just because of the people sticking it would introduce error, and that would be a problem. Having inventory records allows you to have a complete history of inventory management. So you can go back in time and even run trends. You can determine if your meter is off and if you're giving fuel to the customer. And it is 1,000 times more accurate because more data, more reliable results means fewer, less leaks. So that's a big bonus going forward. I used to get these faxes when I worked for the state of Alaska. You get a call, hey, fax me the form, I got to register your tank. And I'd walk over and I'd give it to the secretary and they'd enter it into the database. All that stuff is gone now. And a couple folks on the line here are from Arizona. Arizona has a thing now called My DEQ, and there's a portal and you can upload all that information directly. I'm seeing many state agencies really getting modernized and using internet-based accounting systems to be able to track important information. No more faxes, easy to access site records. You can rapidly update the status of your site, and many states now have a searchable online database. And so more and more states are needing, tank registration numbers to be included on the training program. You can now go online, find your location, get your facility ID, pop it in there, and it's just a lot easier keeping track of everything. I used to stick tanks, like I said, and so the management of operational fuel levels, you used to have to stick the tank or maybe even check the tank gauge, but now you can have an online account whereby you have a web-based digital dashboard that shows exactly your inventory levels. You can look at volume. A volume as kind of a visual check here, approximately ullage or ullage, empty space, how much time you got left, and any sort of alarms. And so what we're seeing now is a much better way. You can now do better forecasting when deliveries are needed. If you're a super busy site and keeping your fuel tank topped off is really important, then there's some great services out there to kind of optimize that, because really minutes can make critical, what's the word? Minutes can mean a lot in a short amount of time when you're needing to keep your tank topped off. It does and can notify drivers so you don't run out of fuel and avoid shutdown. So it's a better kind of communication network between the tank gauge, you, the tank, and the driver. You can maintain a history of deliveries and help keep budgeting for future needs. And gas and diesel costs a lot of money these days. We want to prevent either over or under ordering fuel so that we don't hurt our wallet too much. Back in the old days, a tester would come in, they do a line test or a tank test on your system and give you a piece of paper. Now there are companies out there, and Cromco is a good example, that store all this information in one, what Cromco calls the vault. And there's a number of different clouds, Titan clouds, OPW, fuel system, CAM system. And so basically it's like a digital storehouse of things like test results. No more paper to have lost. You can get standardized fields, which is great. So then you can, if you have a lot of sites, you can kind of you can run standardized reports because the information is able to be consolidated, and you can kind of look at trends that way. You can get historic test results. It's super easy to update. And like I said, you can evaluate trends. So all this stuff should be moving towards online. One of my personal favorites, because this drives me crazy. I mean, I still see tank gauges and alarm. They're not as bad as they used to be. I was at a store in Washington State not too long ago when I went inside and I can see the tank monitor blinking red, and I'm trying to get the guy's attention. The guy's like, no, no, everything's fine. And I said, no, no. I said, no, really, I'm laughing. I'm saying, like, I can help you out. I said, what does it say? It's too far away. And he goes up to the tank gauge and he tears it off and he looks at me and he crumbles it up and he throws the paper on the ground. He goes, everything is fine, sir. Right. So like, we don't want to have that anymore. We want to have good alarm response, like my friend Joe here. There are now digital web-based alarm services that provide alarm management. It cuts through all the alarm noise, right? There's alarms and there's alarms. There's yellow alert, there's red alert. Some red alerts are bad, some are not so bad, some are terrible. What does all this mean? And so we are no longer ignoring alarms, but we're also prioritizing what those alarms are. And we take the human element, the guy who crumpled up the piece of paper, that person should be going away. They have no business running a gas station, in my opinion here. We target only the alarms that matter, and you get notifications of an alarm so you don't ignore them. So you got a standardized digital alarm diagnostic, so you can basically be more consistent, more smart. There's nothing worse too, if you're a service provider, you go on out to a site and it's like a goofy alarm that doesn't really mean anything because the operator doesn't know what it means. So having that kind of interpreter and that sorter from the tank gauge to the environment, to you and the alarm system is really a great way to go. Canary is a great company for that.
Hey, Ben, really quick.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but Doug Taylor wrote in that Doug's super engaged with everybody else, said, okay, I'm frantically taking notes on one screen, trying to watch on the other, but it would be really helpful if we could either get the recording or presentation afterwards, then I could just focus on what Ben's covering. Will either be available?
Yes, I'm going to put a copy of this presentation on YouTube. So don't sprain a wrist taking notes. Sorry about that. I get excited about stuff like this. And yes, thank you, Doug, for that. A copy of this will be available on YouTube not too long after this. I'll send everyone a link out, and then you can kind of watch it and pause and be taking notes here. This is the beginning of a somewhat of an in-depth research. I'm trying to kind of whet your appetite to let you know what's out there, but there will be some digging afterwards.
Awesome. Grab a cup of tea or coffee, Doug, and relax. Just listen.
Thank you so much. And go Virginia. Virginia has a My DEQ tank registration form too. So if you're in Virginia, you guys get it too. That's great. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Doug. And sorry. So forget the clipboards, forget the piece of paper, forget the pen. There are companies out there like my friends at CSTAT who can and do develop customized inspection forms, daily, monthly, annual, triannual, whatever you want to do. And so you can get either stock or customized online forms to fill out. And again, like before, no more lost results, consistency of fields, offsite storage in case you have a fire, lose your records. The big thing I think is of value is that we're not transcribing from a clipboard to a spreadsheet and stuff just gets lost there. And if you are a company that has like extra special needs, I know I've got a couple of big company friends on the line here, and yeah, they use a state form, but maybe they want to do a little bit more that's a company specific priority. And so you can develop these inspection forms that are digital and you can customize them. See CSTAT afterwards for about that. I kind of mentioned this before. This is the tank gauge I go to where I live on Whidbey Island in Washington State. You can see on the box here, no internet connectivity. They just got power. So Joe is the only guy in the world who can see what's going on here, unless he decides to get an online service with the tank gauge manufacturer. Now information can get shot directly to Joe's phone, tablet, or computer. You basically got off-site monitoring. And so now Joe isn't the only person who sees the tank alarm, fuel levels, conditions, tank tests, all that sort of stuff. It can also be managed at an offsite location and then loaded into a software app that you can access from your phone, mobile device. You can get immediate notifications about actions and alarms. It does, and I'm kind of a big fan of this, it does remove on-site untrained humans. We love on-site trained humans, just not the untrained ones who don't know what that means. And truthfully, if you have a tank gauge, you could have a certain array of alarms. You're the same company, or different company down the street might have totally different set of alarms. So there is no like one size fits all what you got at your location. So you really have to know what you got, or you use a third-party vendor to help you get there. And if you got a ton of sites, all that information can be bound into one easy location. The automatic tank gauge console interface is changing, and I do need to say here that I learned earlier this year that as of New Year's Eve 2021, Veeder-Root has quit manufacturing the Veeder-Root TLS 350. The box you see on the left is going away. Parts are going to get hard to find, and there's going to be a big migration to another monitor. If you like Veeder-Root, you know, there's the 450 Plus, there's other makes and models out there, but even the interface of tank gauge is becoming kind of modernized, and what we're seeing now are touchscreen technologies and color. We've got this kind of nice, I mean, it's 2022 after all, and so tank gauges probably ought to catch up and somewhat look like an iPad or an iPhone or whatever. So the buttons are going away. I like these tank gauges because you can get a great visual viewing of what tanks you have, how full they are, what kind of products they are, and you can just get a rapid snapshot of everything that's underground in one simple screen. It looks and behaves more like a tablet than a regular tank gauge. It is Gen XYZ friendly because we've got, you know, new folks coming in through the system. I think these systems are a bit more intuitive. Yes, you've been using the Veeder-Root TLS 350 for 20 years, and yes, you can do it in your sleep. And no, the new interface is not too hard to do. I have a bunch of YouTube videos on how to get there. It does have contemporary navigational features. Compliance binders have been kind of the backbone of record keeping proof of compliance since the beginning of the program. Now we're migrating into online options. And so you can have digital compliance binders that are online. They're easy to search. Digital backups are great. You can't get lost or damage. We're kind of seeing a theme here. Automatic to update. And you can program site-specific record keeping requirements. And so again, if you have a state that has particular rules, if you have a company that has specific rules that are outside the normal, what a state or federal agency would require, then all that can be modified accordingly. No training would be complete without online operator training. I did the nation's first Class AB operator training course in Portland, Oregon in 2003, and it was big hit, lots of training, hundreds of live classes over the years, but quite frankly, we can't reach as many people as we'd like to, and so enter online ABC operator training. This is just kind of a quick plug here. Train anytime, anywhere. For me, it's easy to update content. I don't know, Delaware goes out and changes a form, and rather than me having to kind of manually correct that, I just update the online content and then everyone's got the new form. So, and if you're a large company, I've got some folks on the line here who do use our online training to train thousands of people. You can train and track lots and lots and lots of users, which if you've got a lot of people, that's really important. Sometimes people come to us because they don't so much need a great training solution as they need a trackability solution to kind of keep track of everyone, especially with the high turnover of Class C. You can run detailed reports, you can measure progress, you can get test scores. Certificates are generated automatically and they are stored automatically. Every day we get a, hey, I lost my certificate, the inspector's coming, can you help me out, kind of thing like that. We do have ABC training in all states and territories except American Samoa and California. Diana was asking, how much does a new ATG system cost? The old number I used to hear, Diana, was something in the order of like 10 grand. It might be up to 20 grand by now. The good news is if your system isn't, if your probes and sensors are not super old, you should just have to be able to change the box. And so there's the time to get a technician out there, there's a physical box itself, and then there's a reconnecting of all the probes and sensors. And so one of the saving grace is that the whole thing top to bottom doesn't have to be replaced, but other people might want to chime in who would have experience with that. I'm hearing anywhere between 10 and 20. And Diana, you had asked, do any regulatory agencies require them yet? I lost track of what them is because I've been kind of going along so fast. California has always been the exception. Yes, thank you, Catherine. So we think operator training has made a difference over the years. We've talked to inspectors all over the country. Some people say, you know, you can't make people care, and we still have the people who kind of don't care about compliance, but we've had great experience over the years. I think operator training creates smarter operators. Smarter operators mean quicker inspections. And so if operators kind of know what it is you're looking for, and they know the common language, what all the tank parts are. They know what the minimum requirements are. Then the inspection should be easier. Fines should be down. Violations should be down. Inspectors can get to more sites, but ultimately, you know, fewer leaks, fewer spills, fewer ignored alarms, and it's just a better business practice to operate stuff from a intelligent instead of kind of an ignorant angle. Scheduling, I mean, man, what do I do every day, every week, every month, every year, every 3 years? There's a whole calendar driving thing that's happening here. And so now there are online compliance scheduling software platforms that can make you track complex scheduling. If you have, we just sold a bunch of training to a New England company. They've got tanks in every single state, slightly different inspection schedules everywhere. They can use a synchronized calendar program to launch notifications about when, you know, tank and line tests need to be done, tank gauge certification needs to be done, clean your spill buckets need to be done, all that sort of stuff. And so we really do need to be relying on more sophisticated models to track all this calendaring, and the results can be uploaded from a third party, which is kind of cool. If you are a high throughput site, then you're having trouble doing leak detection properly. My friends over at Warren Rogers have a program called Fuel Wrap. And then what that basically means is unless you're pushing like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 million gallons a month, you can probably qualify for a high throughput leak detection platform. Testing is actually done through the tank gauge remotely gathering literally millions of data points, and electronic reconciliation is extremely accurate because you're using the internet to be pinging the system. You don't have to shut down the operation, which we normally used to have to do to get a valid leak test. Now we can do leak detection on the fly and have that stored, recorded, and alerted through a web-based platform. It does avoid static testing and shutdown because it is literally continuous testing. Even things like asset management, you know, what are all the inventory of parts that make up a UST system? If you've taken AB training before, you know that there's a lot of things that comprise a buried tank system. It's not just, you know, a bunch of holes in the ground and a tank monitor and a big old tank and a dispenser. There's a lot of parts there as well. And so there are systems out there. Dover does this, Technology does this, and Cromco does this. I think Titan does this. And so there's a whole bunch of different platforms out there that can kind of balance all that under one roof. Digital inventory of all tank parts and components. Take digital pictures, upload it so we have a picture of the records, and we can use it to calculate required changes, replacements, and improvements. So if we want to be kind of forward thinking, we can know what our inventory is. You can kind of figure out when you need to do equipment replacement. Something I didn't even know when I started on this journey to start preparing for this presentation was contacting tech support. Not that Chris and my team are going to be going away anytime soon to be taken over by a barcode, but QR code as a technical assistance service can be a great idea. I think we're now going to start seeing QR codes at UST sites. We can get links to, we'll go directly to tech support web pages. And so rather than kind of call someone and wait and maybe hear back or maybe not, scan it, take your phone, scan it, get a QR code, and you can go directly sent to a link that can give us proper technical support. So please get creative, scan and go. I've done some trainings before that happen to be next to a torn up gas station. So we haul the class out, go to a site, look at the whole thing. It's like, oh, that's what a sump looks like. And that's how the piping is oriented. And that's what a spill bucket looks like without fill. And so that's a little hard to do. I've seen on YouTube some time-lapse photographies of gas stations being built, but now we have virtual reality. Source NA and a couple other companies have actually gone to great length to, and Warren Rogers as well, to develop software that can give us a virtual experience. And so if you want to get a kind of a deeper, a visceral understanding about the relationship of all the parts and pieces, you don't need to dig up a tank anymore to get there. You can have this immersive experience. I will say that Source NA has a great in-person site where you can actually go and visit a bunch of real tanks live and look at a bunch of dispensers, and all the equipment's kind of right there. If you can't make it to Arlington, Texas, you can get an immersive experience either with the goggles, and some of the technology now you can just simply use your phone to be able to have this somewhat of an immersive experience. So I'm learning there's actually a bunch of different levels of virtual reality. It's not just, Dungeons and Dragons and the goggles and all that sort of stuff. So you can create real-time context for the end user. Everyone who I've ever known who has immersed themselves in this virtual world just has a much deeper appreciation for kind of the complexity and the geography, the geometry of all these tank systems. I think it helps us to be better UST professionals. So you can do it from a computer instead of versus being out in the field. A couple of bonus points here. The US EPA has launched, I think it's been a year or two now, UST Finder. Go to the UST Finder webpage, type in a name, an address, a zip code, some sort of geographic indicator, and you can drill down. Like here where I live on Whidbey Island, Washington, these are all the little known regulated underground tanks that are in the area. And so you can start getting closer to your area, or you can even tap on one individually and get basic information about that UST system. So if you need to know what tanks are in the area, or if your tanks have correct information on them, you can use this Ust Finder as a great tool to locate individual USTs. And of course, no talk would be complete without my Tank Savvy Minute video. This has been a fun project over the years to make 1-minute video clips about one thing about a UST system. Here you're seeing a picture of a bunch of 1-minute videos, how to get really specific information out of the new Veeder-Root TLS 450 Plus. And if you've seen these videos before, there's a minute on a spill bucket, a minute on a shear valve, a minute on an emergency spill kit, on and on like that. And so if you were to watch all the videos together, it would kind of put together for you a complete package of a complete UST system. Feel free to go to youtube.com/UST training. I also find interesting, funny, inspector-driven type videos that I try to curate and put on that landing page as well. And you may just be focusing on USTs, but there's a broader universe of tech support out there for all things related to what you may or may not even be doing. If you've got a convenience store, there's alcohol sales compliance training, there's COVID safety training, HR training, tobacco, food service. There's a number of petroleum trade associations for which we're members of that also have links into here. So there's a whole array of digital services out there that also could be related to your business, not necessarily related to USTs. Oh, Victoria was saying it also allows to look at facilities for the 100-year flood. Okay, for floodplains, and so so you can help make financial responsibility decisions. Right. So there's a you could use Tank Finder as a tool to envision what might be kind of high-risk areas due to weather events, earthquakes, floods like that. Thank you for that. The videos are great. Thank you, video. Thank you, Adam. Good stuff. Thank you. Thank you. So how is technology making compliance easier? Hopefully, I've made kind of a somewhat of a compelling case for it. I want to try to boil this down into some basic points here. It does consolidate lots of important tasks into one or more dashboards. I think if you're kind of a modern, somewhat reasonably digital, tech savvy kind of person here, this image of a dashboard of like, here's all the stuff I need in one place where I'm driving, that's going to help me keep track of all my stuff. And so having a centralized repository for web services to do all your compliance stuff it can be done, I guess. It does automate measurements that are prone to human error. Human error is built into all measurements in the first place. And so we're trying to reduce the measurement error by taking the stick away from Joe and giving him the tank gauge. The tank gauge will improve our data reliability so we can make better decisions and we don't miss the leaks. We are hopefully going to be reducing missed alarms and bad leak calculations. Personally, I think ignored alarms is dropping. It used to be I'd go to any site in America, it was like always an alarm. And then that number has been kind of anecdotally shrinking. So I think we've got smarter people, but we're also automating things that are prone to human error. We can now use mobile devices, digital reminders, stay on top of things, and have our calendar help keep us in line with compliance stuff. And ultimately, no more lost records. I think technology can close the loop between the humans, the management system, and the equipment. Here at UST Training, we are a digital company. We love, digital solutions, but we're at the end of the day, Chris and I, and Kristen and Matt and Tammy and Julia, we're all real people here too. So we want to be able to, celebrate that humans are an essential part of that, but pull away certain tasks that are just prone to, I don't know, disorder or misunderstanding or things like that. And so be thinking about technology as a way to kind of hold all this in one container. And I want to kind of wind down with a kind of a funny picture. It needs a moment to kind of explain. We have our traditional tank monitor here, the Veeder-Root TLS 350. Hi, Kristen. Other Chris Rodden. And what is happening here is we've got a tank gauge and it's doing leak detection. There's all these little notes. Okay, here's the help desk number. Here's our site number. Attention every Saturday. Don't forget to print out these reports. So this is like how they used to do it. Then they installed a canary box. And so this box is monitoring all the offsite alarms and leak detection stuff. It's kind of got both. And so it's a, I don't know, it's kind of like having a tank gauge, but still relying on the stick to do the measurements. This is like a kind of a transitional species here. And so this box should kind of be all or none. Ideally, that little scratch over here should go away. And this thing doesn't even really matter anymore because the canary box does that for you. So we're under this picture, we're kind of halfway there. And I think a lot of people will be in the same boat of having to transition, hanging up the stick, hanging up the clipboard, and embracing a full paperless digital solution. There are lots and lots of companies out there. I know many of these, I know most of these, and many of these are professional peers, if not friends of mine. Antea Group does QR codes. Canary does compliance. Cromco's got the Vault. CSTAT has an awesome mobile app device for forms. Dover FMS Fuels CAM, which I'm just learning about, another Vault type system. Franklin Network, My Tank Gauge, Ready Training Online. We do a lot of work with them. Tanknology, Titan Cloud, Virginia, Arizona, a number of states now have web portals. Veeder-Root has these great little phone apps where you can track all the information on your phone, right? Warren Rogers, our friends there for high throughput sites. US EPA, UST Finder, and of course us here at UST Training and our Tank Savvy Minute video YouTube series. So lots and lots of technologies. This is a big swatch of them. It's not them all, but it's hopefully getting you kind of be thinking about how you might be able to improve your compliance by leveraging internet technologies. I would encourage you, all of you, to I don't know, take a picture of the screen, or I don't know, give me a call afterwards, or just Google some of the names that kind of seem familiar here and start doing some research to see how you can kind of retire the stick, as it were, and embrace a different vendor technology. That's kind of all I got. We're at 38 minutes past the hour. Please feel free, don't use the chat, use the Q&A feature here. Go to our YouTube webpage, youtube.com/UST training. Go to our webpage, usttrain.com. Give us a call and our friendly Chris and Chris will help you answer your questions about UST stuff, or just shoot us an email. And I will say every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, I do an open free chat where anyone can join in, and we do add everyone's microphone back in. We have a little kind of family style fireside chat about UST stuff. So feel free to go to our webpage and sign up for a Friday chat. This will be happening on Friday if you want to meet tank experts from around the country. I know some of the people online here today are kind of regulars there, and we have really fun and interesting and varied conversations about that. So that being said, okay, so this just in from Victoria. So EPA is developing a tool to allow facility owners to develop site-specific checklists. I was not aware of that, Victoria. That is cool. So full disclosure here, I mean, stuff's moving pretty fast these days. I do rely on my friends to give me updates about that. I'll have to talk to EPA about that, Vicki. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Adam says,
good,
yeah,
you're checking it all out. Good,
yeah, I'm
Ben.
checking them.
Okay,
Yeah, Adam
awesome.
says there's still no substitute for a stick and water paste. Sometimes I agree with you on that one, Adam. I mean, nothing beats a visual check here, but as long as you really know what you're doing, and like when I was taught to stick a tank back in the 80s, you like open up the lid and you shove the stick down the tank as hard as you could, and you see how high the stick would hop out. So I mean, I was trained how to do it wrong. So yes, as long as people are in fact doing it correctly. Thank you, Vicki. What is currently the best technology to calibrate a UST? You'd have to expand, Varun, on calibrate. I mean, your tank gauge is going to be involved in a lot of calibration, the tank size, the float type, the fuel type, all that sort of stuff. So Varun, I would say I'm not fully sure how to answer that, but maybe email me afterwards and we can talk about it more offline.
Victoria has that comment about the EPA developing a tool to allow facility owners to develop site-specific checklists. That sounds cool. I don't know if I was aware of that.
Yeah, no, I did not get the memo on that one. So yeah, so stay tuned for maybe some low or no cost solutions from EPA for checklists. That's kind of cool. I'll have to remember that one. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Thank you, Varun. Questions, comments, concerns, ideas?
Kristen, I think in the top right corner, if you click where those 3 little dots are, you can rename yourself. I sent Kristen the link to join that was sent to me. So there she is. Oh, there's her real name.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kristen's my partner in crime. When you reach out to us, you'll often, most of the time, hear from Kristen with really great response, helping people out with questions or if they get stuck with anything in our system.
We're here. We are an online service, but there's real people not too far below the skin. So thank you, Chris.
Yeah, we're all working remote basically. But
Yeah.
I saw there are a lot of people here from Oregon today. I live in Portland. I work remotely from Portland. So hello, fellow Oregonians.
Oh, Catherine was asking, do we know the status of CARB certification of the Veeder-Root TLS 450 Plus? I heard that was still up in the air. I don't do a lot of work in California, so I've not been following that real closely. I believe that the 450 Plus, they like in California, it had something to do with the air quality stage 1, stage 2 vapor recovery measurements that were kind of a problem. But pretty soon, the 450 Plus is going to be the only Veeder-Root major model that's out there. There are some lesser boxes. If you're like a small operation, you need a really simple box, there's some out there, but the beloved 350 is definitely going to be going away. Oh, I do want to mention that I'll be attending a number of events over the next couple months. There's Vicky's here. The Tribal Lands Environmental Forum is going to be happening in Milwaukee, Wisconsin next week. I'll be attending virtually. That's a great tribal collection for Indian country environmental compliance issues and networking. That's a really cool thing to go to. I'll be at the National EPA Tanks Conference in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in September. And if you need to talk to a state regulator or regulators and a bunch of agencies, that'll be a great way to meet people there. And then, of course, the National PEI NACS Conference in Las Vegas this first week of October. That'll be the big international smorgasbord of all parts, pieces, and services that make up UST systems out there. We'll have a booth there and happy to run into folks there. But so yeah, so go to our webpage and I don't know, find some of our links and follow us on YouTube. And maybe you're probably already getting an email from us, which is how you learned about this in the first place. I encourage you again to think about ways you can enhance your compliance and business operations by digitizing some of the services you might have taken for granted with an old-timey stick.
And Tammy's